It's that time of year again. 2019 is winding down and we're looking forward to 2020, which means that you need yourself a 2020 calendar. So why not get yourself one to enjoy, featuring original photos from around the Disney parks while supporting this podcast at the same time. In addition to the traditional wall calendar that we've sold in the past, this year we're also selling a desktop calendar that comes in a handy little case for easy display. Whether it's for yourself or as a holiday gift for a loved one, you're sure to love having a touch of Disney on display all year long. It would even make a great prize for one of those white elephant gift exchanges you know you'll get yourself roped into during the holidays. So head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com to order your Disney wall calendar and or desk calendar today. Your purchase helps me produce future free episodes of Disney Coast to Coast for your enjoyment. Now on with the show.
Welcome, foolish mortals, to Disney Coast to Coast. I'm here to introduce your host, your Disney Coast to Coast host. Kindly raise your volume, please. Jeff has plenty of Disney chatter for everyone. There's no turning back now.
Hey folks, and welcome to Disney Coast to Coast, the ultimate unofficial Disney fan podcast. I'm Jeff DePauli, and today on the show I have Mike Celestino from laughingplace.com returning. How are you today, Mike?
Hi, Jeff. It's so good to be back after such a long absence from the show.
I know, it's crazy, but you just flew back from Disneyland Paris.
I did.
And I've never talked about really in-depth Halloween at Disneyland Paris, so let's jump into that conversation right now.
It's time to dive into today's Disney Dialogue.
Okay, Mike, so when I say you just got back, like, you just got back. You're still jet lagging.
I got back late Monday night, yeah, and I'm still adjusting to the time change and the jet lag and everything, but I had never, ever been to Disneyland Paris.
Oh.
I had never been to an overseas Disney park before, so I was super excited to go there and check it out and absorb the park and get to know the park and to check out its Halloween decorations and Halloween shows, which I didn't even know. I didn't even know that they knew what Halloween was in Europe. I always thought they didn't care about Halloween. Halloween is an American holiday.
I mean, it very much is, but it seems to be growing overseas.
That's very cool. And it was cool to see how excited people were about Halloween at Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, I know, people in, Australia and New Zealand and stuff who are like jealous of American Halloween. And they know of it because they see our movies and, they get movies like Halloween or Hocus Pocus or whatever. And frankly, if I was seeing that and didn't get to experience it, I'd be jealous as well. So I'm happy that, the Halloween magic is heading overseas and getting bigger and bigger every year. But Disneyland Paris, let's just start there. Your first time there. I didn't realize it was your first time. What were your impressions of Disneyland Paris? Because I gotta say, to me, as far as the parks I've been to, it is the most beautiful Disney theme park.
A super, super gorgeous park. I want to move into Thunder Mesa, which is the fictional town that inhabits Frontierland at Disneyland Paris. That was where I spent most of my time. I fell in love with it immediately. The two rides that are there, the two e-ticket rides that are there, Big Thunder Mountain and Phantom Manor, are just masterpieces.
Yeah.
And I'm just so impressed with how that area was designed. Really, really loved the Molly Brown steamboat as well. Riverboat, sorry. And yeah, just love that area. And then the rest of the park is gorgeous as well. Fantasyland is really, really pretty.
The castle is stunning.
Yeah, Sleeping Beauty Castle is just like above and beyond what we have here for sure. But you have decades worth of Imagineering advancements that came between those, so it makes sense that Pirates of the Caribbean, which opened in 1967 here in Southern California, and then in 92 in Paris, you have all that. Advancements in Imagineering that happen between those, and you can tell how much innovation went into the design of that ride in particular. Pirates is just amazing as well.
As much as I love Haunted Mansion and Pirates in the States, the two versions in Paris are just my favorite that I've experienced.
Yeah.
Pirates in Shanghai is obviously a completely different animal, but I love the Paris versions. It's fantastic. So I'm glad that you got to go and experience that. Did you go to the basement of the castle to see the dragon?
I visited the dragon down there. That's just really, really cool. It wasn't as big as I had pictured in my head, but it's still really, really cool to see.
Yeah, it's awesome. But in any case, as we mentioned, this time of year, they are celebrating Disney's Halloween Festival. And it does have, from what I've seen, I have not done Halloween in Paris, so we're talking to you about it, but I've seen videos of it and such. When I went to Paris, it was actually winter. So I went to a Disney park in the snow, which was a weird
that's
experience.
something that I would really love to see, because I'm a big fan of snow. Having grown up in the northeast of the United States, I wish I would. I've never seen snow in a Disney park, so that would be...
It's weird. It's very weird, but it's cool, and it makes it beautiful as well. But I haven't done the Halloween stuff, but they call it Disney's Halloween Festival, and I will say, from what I saw, it really does look more like an autumn festival more than specifically Halloween. Would you agree?
even the song, which plays ad nauseum during the parade show type thing, it's more about the autumn and the leaves falling than it is specifically about Halloween. So yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So where do you want to start? Is there anything specific you want to start with for as far as the Halloween stuff?
Yeah, well, let's start at the beginning. Let's start at the decorations that you see.
A very good place to start.
Walking into Main Street, USA,
yes.
Which are very thorough. They've populated all of Main Street with these ghost characters and jack-o'-lanterns all over the place.
When I saw those ghosts, they immediately reminded me of all the scarecrows all over Main Street or Town Square in Magic Kingdom. Mm-hmm. It kind of seemed like they just took out the scarecrows and put in ghosts.
Right.
But yeah, very fun, goofy-looking ghosts, and of course the jack-o'-lanterns.
Yeah, and the ghosts are kind of like citizens of Main Street. They've got a mayor ghost and like baseball player ghost. There's like a pitcher and a batter.
That's exactly what they do with the jack-o'-lanterns. Yeah. Magic Kingdom. So yeah, I mean, it's cool to see that tradition stay overseas, and it is beautiful. It's just a beautiful park in general. So like decorating it with anything just makes it more beautiful.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I loved the entrance, and they primarily, I think, decorated, correct me if I'm wrong, Main Street and then Frontierland were kind of their focus.
Yeah. In fact, those were the two videos that I put together of the decorations, the Halloween decorations at Disneyland Paris, Main Street and Frontierland. Frontierland has more of the jack-o'-lantern scarecrow type characters.
Okay. And then the ghosts of Main Street. Cool.
Yeah.
Did you see the parade?
I did. So this is Mickey's Halloween celebration.
Yeah.
And to my surprise and my disappointment the first time I watched it, it's more of a show than a parade, but it is both.
Because they have show stops?
It stops in the hub, which they call the Central Plaza. But when I first camped out to watch the show, I was camped out along Main Street, about halfway down, and the show was coming from the top of the park toward me, and it stopped in the hub in Central Plaza, and they do this they get off the floats, they get on the stages over there, they do a whole song and dance number, and I was way far down Main Street, like peering down the street, trying to see what was going on. So clearly I was standing in the wrong place that first time. I got some tips from regulars on Twitter about where to stand the next time I saw it, and that time was a little bit better, but it's still a very, very difficult parade to see all of the... you'd have to watch it probably 5 times. I'd say 5 times to get the full experience, because there are 4 different stages in Central Plaza where they do the different characters will stand and do different performances. So it's a tough show to shoot to video, and it's really cool to see in person. But again, it's the kind of thing that will reward you for seeing it multiple times. Yeah,
which, is always good when it comes to Disney, considering the repeatability of how often people repeat going to the park. So now this was very autumn, if I'm remembering from the video I saw. There was one kind of Halloween-y float, but a lot of it was like there's even a giant cornucopia float.
Yes,
which to me makes me think more Thanksgiving than Halloween.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of an amalgam of all the different fall celebrations and holidays.
Yeah. Any particular favorite floats in that parade?
Well, okay, here's something that I discovered. I kind of knew this in the back of my head because I've read the Carl Barks Duck comics. I'm a big fan of DuckTales, big fan of Uncle Scrooge and the nephews and Donald and all those characters. So it was very exciting for me to see how casually they've incorporated Uncle Scrooge and Huey, Dewey, and Louie into the parks in Paris, because it's very rare that we'll see Uncle Scrooge here. And that's because the comic books, the Carl Barks and the Don Rosa Uncle Scrooge comics, are very popular in France. I don't know why that is or how that came to be, but it's very interesting to me and appropriate to me because I've always loved those characters more than I love Minnie or Mickey. Sorry, Minnie and Mickey. But I was thrilled to see that Uncle Scrooge and Donald and Huey, Dewey, and Louie were heavily featured in that parade.
You know, it's so interesting when I watch or see photos of the characters overseas. I'm always like, why are their costumes so much cooler? And I don't know if they actually are cooler. I think it's just because I don't see them as often.
Yeah.
That I'm always like, wow. Especially, you know, the Asian parks. Sometimes I'm blown away by their designs. And Disneyland Paris, you know, the Halloween costumes I thought were really cool.
Yeah, speaking of the costumes, the other float that I want to talk about from the parade is kind of like a haunted house thing.
Yeah.
It's not the Phantom Manor. It doesn't look like the Phantom Manor, but it is kind of an elaborate haunted house. Out front is Pluto, not a costume character, but a statue of Pluto looking like a gargoyle.
Okay.
And he's got like wings and stuff, which is really cool and eerie, creepy looking. And Mickey is the featured character on that float. And it's got multiple levels and multiple doors. And Mickey will go in the doors and come out the other doors. There are doors on top, doors on bottom. And every time he comes out one of the doors, he's wearing a different costume, which is really neat.
Whoa!
So it's
and
like,
this is like a full-on costume character. Like this is Mickey. This isn't like a Pluto statue situation.
Correct. It's a costume character Mickey, and I'm pretty sure there are multiple performers playing Mickey.
I mean, there would have to be.
Yeah, it's not like a quick
there's
change
only
thing.
one, but
Right.
That's wild.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
I gotta go look that up. I didn't see that. I saw a little bit of the parade, but I didn't see that.
So it's just the color of his costume changes.
That must be a
completely.
big building, though.
Yeah, it's a 2-story float. Yeah, it's cool.
That's interesting.
And on the back of that one is Huey and Dewey and Louie in devil costumes for their Halloween costume.
Oh, that's cute. I like that. Well, that's fun. The characters over there, like I said, pretty cool. Maleficent has like her own little briar bush at the castle courtyard. Did you see this? It was
I
like
did
a
see that, and I wasn't sure if that was something that was in the park all the time or if that was a Halloween thing.
From what I understand, it sounded like it was a Halloween thing.
Okay, so I should have focused on that more, but that was certainly really cool looking.
It seemed like it was a Halloween thing to me. You know, obviously the villains get tons of attention during the Halloween season, and Maleficent, you know, it is Sleeping Beauty Castle there, so
yeah.
She got a pretty cool area, I will say. What did you think? Did any of the character costumes stick out in particular? You mentioned Huey, Dewey, and Louie, but
you mean outside of the parade, Goofy and Max meet in Town Square.
Okay,
and it's just them. They don't rotate them out or anything. You know, they'll go on break and come out. But Goofy is wearing this weird like steampunk gumball machine outfit. It's really unique. And I kind of stood there and just kind of watched him for a little while because I thought it was so kind of outside the box of a choice for costume for him. Mm-hmm. But I thought that was really cool looking. And then Max is just kind of wearing like a Halloween vest. It's not as interesting. But the Goofy costume is super cool.
Huh. Gosh, now I've got to look all this stuff
and
up.
He's got, and Goofy has like this weird like Rube Goldberg machine behind him. It's totally bizarre.
Where was he meeting? Was this like on
It's just on the right side of Main Street, like past the I guess it's the train depot or whatever is over there on that side. And
isn't it weird when you go to like a Magic Kingdom park that you're like, oh, I'm so familiar with these parks, and it's like slightly different. In fact, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe it's Paris that has Discoveryland instead of Tomorrowland.
Correct. Yeah.
Which I've always loved that. From the first time I saw that, I was like, you know what? Aside from Disneyland, I don't want to rename Walt's original Tomorrowland.
Yeah.
But like the others, I'm like, you could call them all Discoveryland, and I'd be good with that.
Speaking of Discoveryland, I was so bummed that the Nautilus walkthrough was not open while I was there because I was looking forward to seeing that.
That's an interesting throwback to like opening day of Disneyland, even the
Right.
whole Nautilus walkthrough thing. I forgot that was over there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So they did do a special stage show for Halloween.
Yeah, this is called Are You Brave Enough? And this features all the Disney, or some of the most popular Disney villains. Ursula is kind of the star of it.
Which I think is new this year.
Yeah.
Now, this is interesting because the videos I saw, there's this whole back and forth with... The continuity is not great when it comes to character voices in the parks and stuff like that because Ursula live sings in this show.
Yes.
Ursula has a very distinct voice, and I know for like the Hocus Pocus Villain Spectacular, when you hear the villains speak, other than the Sanderson sisters, it's like pre-recorded voices.
Okay.
So that it's the character voices. And as much as I love live singing, I was kind of like, I don't know, this is not Ursula. This is somebody playing Ursula in my mind. So that was kind of unique. But in any case, how was the show overall? What'd you think of it?
I thought it was fine. Other people I talked to afterward didn't like it, but like I mentioned the last time I was on the show, I'm not really a show guy.
Yeah.
So just the fact that I was there watching it was enough for me, I guess. Like it didn't take a lot to impress me with the show.
Sure. It was a cool Ursula costume.
Yeah, it was good. This giant clamshell kind of turns around, and you see Ursula's kind of revealed, and she has these big puppet tentacles. Yeah. And I thought that was really neat. And then, Gaston and a bunch of the other villains come out, and they each sing part of their specific song that goes with.
Were the other vocals live as well, or did it seem like did they sound like the characters, or because Ursula's the one I saw and she definitely didn't.
Actually, I want to say maybe they don't sing the songs, but they just play those songs and they dance along with them.
Okay,
from my recollection, but I could be wrong about that.
Okay, so they have a special show. Now this is all stuff that's during the daytime, normal park hours.
Yes.
Because their special Halloween party, they have Disney Halloween party, but from what I could see, it was only on October 26th and 31st. So It's not like, you didn't go to a party, did you?
I went to a special Twilight Zone Tower of Terror party.
Oh, I want to hear all about that. We'll get to that. But yeah, as far as the Halloween party is concerned, as we mentioned, Halloween isn't as big overseas. They emphasize the season of autumn more, and they obviously spend much less time celebrating, considering, Walt Disney World's Halloween party starts in August and goes through into early November. It's a bit of a difference, but the Halloween stuff they do have, for the most part, is available during normal park hours, which is great if you're just visiting. I love that. I also want to mention they have a little Day of the Dead area, right?
Yeah, so in Frontierland, I was
Okay.
actually surprised to see this because as much as I figure Halloween is a specific holiday to America, Dia de los Muertos is very specific to Mexico, although it's bled over into America recently, I feel.
Especially Southern California.
Yeah, and especially after Coco came out, like I feel like more people know what it is, and it's certainly represented in the parks here in Anaheim, but in Disneyland Paris, in Frontierland, now they have a whole area that is decorated for Dia de los Muertos, and there's a section that has a giant Dante as the Alebrije character statue, and in front of that statue, there's a mariachi band that performs mariachi songs in addition to songs from Coco specifically. So that was really cool to see, and something that I wasn't expecting, though I had seen images from that before when they had like the little Miguel puppet that debuted over there and stuff. So.
Yeah, so I saw a video where they have the Miguel puppet. It did you not see it there, or?
I didn't see the puppet there.
I'm obsessed with this puppet.
Yeah.
They have it at Disney California Adventure.
Yeah.
This is the puppet that I'm sure, most Disney fans have seen video where he has a puppeteer behind him. Miguel is up to about the puppeteer's waist, and he's controlled very much like Olaf has been seen in various shows throughout the parks. But I think this is the most adorable puppet. I just think he's so cute, and he's got his little guitar, and he's playing the music, and I love it. So when I saw that he's in Paris as well, I was like, oh, great. There's now when in Paris, Epcot, Disney California Adventure, I don't know about anywhere else, but I'm telling you, folks, start selling those puppets in the stores.
Yeah, I think
want
you and
one.
I are both puppet guys, so anytime we see puppets in the parks, it's exciting.
Yeah, that's a great puppet.
Yeah.
It's better than Olaf.
For sure.
Oh my gosh, it's just very expressive puppet and clearly a puppet. There's no faking, trying to pretend it's.
Oh, right. Yeah, you've got the performer right there, clear as day behind him.
But you can't get your eyes off of that stupid little puppet. It's always amazing to me when there's one of the first interviews I ever did was with John Tartaglia, who's been on the show and works with the Henson Company and stuff, but he was doing Avenue Q on Broadway. And I interviewed him, and then I interviewed his puppet from Avenue Q. And of course, John was right there with me. Couldn't get my eyes off the puppet. I was like, this is the weirdest, most bizarre thing that even as an adult, it can
funny.
still kind of sucker you in just like you were a kid.
Tangentially, I always think to myself when I see Mickey and Friends in the parks that if they were to create from scratch Mickey and Friends meet and greets today, rather than doing a full-size body costume, they would do puppets that are the appropriate size of those characters. And I think that would be, to me, more interesting than what they're doing.
I've had that thought for a very long time, and there's pros and cons to it. For me, so did you ever see the Disney Junior show, or maybe it was back when it was the puppets,
right,
with Mickey in them? And I was
DCA,
like, DCA and Disney's Hollywood Studios. And I've always been like, okay, because when you see Mickey Mouse on screen next to like Michael Eisner or something, like they come up to his maybe a little high, to his like thigh.
Right, he's like 2 feet tall, 2.5 feet.
And so I've always had that thought. I'm thinking too much about it, but but I would love something like that because I've always, I love when you meet Kermit or something, and it's Kermit. It's the Kermit you see on screen. So I wish that the Mickey we met, but that wouldn't work for parades so well, and it wouldn't work for a lot of things as well. Certainly something like Fantasmic, it wouldn't work for. So I get it, but I agree with you.
Sure,
it would be interesting to see a new version of that, but it'd be jarring, man. If one day they're just like, okay, we're going a different direction.
It would take some getting used to, but I feel like it would be truer to what I think of when I think of Mickey and Donald. I don't know.
I don't disagree with you. I just think that would be very, 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 very hard. I'll tell you what I would do. If I were somebody creating a franchise of characters, and of course Walt wasn't thinking this back when Mickey was created, but if I was creating a franchise of characters, I would go more in the direction of a Kermit or a C-3PO or something that what you see on screen
is replicable.
Yeah, exactly.
In a live situation.
Yeah, I would want that. And if I did have cartoon characters, I think I would want to create something where like you walk into a room with an augmented reality sort of situation these days. I think that would be really interesting, and you see them just as they are on screen. But it's an interesting conversation, and not to get on too much of a tangent here, but I'll sometimes ask people, like, when you think Mickey Mouse, who is Mickey Mouse to you? Is it that animated character you see on screen, or is it the character you meet in parks?
Right.
And for me, it kind of leads more toward the character you meet in parks, even though that's not the original.
Right.
It's just like, that's the Mickey I've met, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So I don't know.
And when you're really young, those things kind of blend together, I feel.
Sure, absolutely. But at the same time, we can't deny the fact that those mascot characters are very scary for a lot of kids.
Sure, especially the older
ones. And so, I mean, I feel like that's something that would be less of an issue if we had a more, maybe, appropriate's the wrong word, but a more consistent version of Mickey and Minnie and the Gang. So I don't know. Sorry to go on this adult conversation tangent here, folks, but
something to pursue at a later date.
It's something we think about, which is makes us Disney nerds. So that's cool. So yeah, I was very happy to see the Coco celebration there. What else did you do Halloween related in the park? Because I think most of it was at Disneyland Paris, right? You mentioned not Phantom Manor, but Tower of Terror, which we'll get to, but all like the decorating and celebration of Halloween was actually in the Disneyland Paris park, right?
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There were the decorations, the 2 shows. That's pretty much as far as the Halloween stuff.
Any special treats? Desserts?
Yeah. Oh, some of the restaurants had special Halloween menus, but I have crazy food allergies, so it's very difficult for me to like try experiment with food. So it's
it'd be
I'll take a picture of the menu, but that was about it.
Here's a great video you could make. You'd be like, hey, I have food allergies. Let's see how I react to this one. And you could try all the new special treats.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how
this
badly
one
did I?
almost killed me.
Yeah.
But good news, this one, I only got a rash.
Right.
There we go. That's the next viral video for you. So I do want to talk about Phantom Manor. Obviously, this is there year-round, but obviously ties into the Halloween season so well. And recently reopened.
It did recently reopen. I had never been on it before, so I didn't have the previous experience to compare it to. I'd watched like grainy, dark videos. This is a very difficult ride to video, obviously, because it's so dark and they're just like our haunted mansion. But I loved the Phantom Manor. I thought it was it's kind of like a classier take on the Haunted Mansion. It's not quite as goofy.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Even the music alone is just classier. I love the musical score.
Right.
I love the fact that the story is easier to follow. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that Vincent Price is now back in the attraction.
Oh, I didn't realize they had taken him out.
Oh, he was out for a very long time.
Okay. Yeah, that's cool to hear.
And he's back in, which is some really great narration. I love him. And yeah, the end's a little weird when you go to a
the Old West, ghost town.
So what does that replace? Does that replace the graveyard? I can't remember.
And you mean it replaces the graveyard that we have here?
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you leave the house at the end, you come out of the manor and you go. There's like a small graveyard area where the Phantom is hanging out. Right? Is that what that character is called? Yeah. So he's kind of near a grave and he gestures toward you, and then you turn around backwards and you go down underground through some roots, and that's probably my favorite part of the ride. It's just so evocative, these roots like going backward underground into this crypt. And they do have the singing busts there, which I don't know which versions of the ride have included that.
I'm pretty sure those have always been there.
Okay. And then you pass the singing bust, and you kind of come out of the underground area into a literal ghost town, Wild West town that has the mayor character has the voice of the ghost host that we have here. I don't know if that's always been there like that, but he says, "There you are.
Oh, so it's
welcome, foolish mortals."
Interesting. So it's a little tribute to the original.
Yep, a tribute to the original. In the is it Paul Frees who does the voice of the ghost?
He's the original, and then when they redo it, Corey Burton does it for Haunted Mansion Holiday and stuff. So I don't know if they.
I think this was the original recording. Okay. Yeah, but this character he tips his hat to you, but his head comes off.
Yep.
With the hat, so that's cool. And then you go through the ghost.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And then you go through the ghost town, and there's all these literal ghosts that are like Wild West characters hanging out there.
And that's to tie it into the story of...
Yeah, because you're in Frontierland, there's no New Orleans Square, there's no Liberty Square in Disneyland Paris. It's all in Frontierland that the Phantom Manor lives, and they had to put a Wild West element in there for that reason.
Yeah, as much as I love that attraction, it always weirds me out that they just blatantly put the Psycho House in a Disney park, which is weird. And I get it. The Psycho House is not, that was designed after Edward Hopper's House by the Railroad. So I get this is a very specific style house, but let's see it. Let's face it. Whenever anybody sees it these days, you think Psycho, right?
Sure.
So I find that a little surprising.
I'll say that I thought of the Lego set called The Haunted House that I have, which is my favorite Lego set. It came out probably 7 or 8 years ago, and it looks just like the Phantom Manor, and it made me appreciate that set even more.
I mean, wouldn't you just say that the Lego set looks just like the Psycho House?
I don't know. I didn't think of the Psycho House, but maybe I have to go back and look at it to compare. Oh, yeah, it's there.
Hanging on the wall right there.
Yeah, I guess it's pretty similar.
It's very similar.
Okay.
But yeah, no, I was happy to see that attraction get some TLC because, I mean, it was always an amazing attraction. The stretching room even has some unique portraits.
Oh, those effects are so cool. Yeah. So they all the portraits start out with a couple, and I think it's the same man in every painting. Is that right?
Yeah, it's the daughter and her dad.
Okay.
And the dad disappears or the daughter disappears?
The woman disappears.
Okay, the woman
in each
disappears.
one.
Basically, the story is that they've, gone back in to make more prominent throughout the attraction. Is the story that no guy is going to be good enough for this girl's dad? No guy's good enough for the daughter.
Okay.
So this dad, the Phantom, is killing all of these men.
I didn't make that connection, but there you go. Okay.
That's the story. So you're seeing the father in each of those portraits with his daughter.
Then the daughter disappears in each portrait as the elevator. I don't even know if it's an elevator there, but I don't think so because I didn't feel it moving. It's an elevator here. It's not in Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, it switches. I think you're right. I think it lifts up. The ceiling lifts in Paris. It goes down, I want to say, in Tokyo. And then Shanghai. Shanghai they don't have a Haunted Mansion.
Don't know, haven't been. And then you see, it's kind of a similar joke to the portraits that we have here in the Haunted Mansion, where he's then in like different predicaments in each painting. Like one, he's in a rowboat going over a waterfall, and that kind of thing.
Yeah. That's fun. I'm glad you got to experience that because I really do love that attraction. I think it's fantastic. But another thing you did is you hopped over to the Walt Disney Studios park, which I've never been to. Back when I went to Disneyland Paris, it was only the one park at the time. Is it as bad as people say?
So when I first got into Walt Disney Studios, I was expecting the worst because probably like you, I've heard bad things. And then I thought, hey, this park isn't so bad because right after you go through the main gate, there's this big building. It's an interior kind of a gift shop slash restaurant space that's designed to look like old Hollywood. They've got like Schwab's Pharmacy.
Okay.
And they've got like the Crossroads of the World and all those famous buildings you would see in old Hollywood, which I'm a big fan of that era of Hollywood. And it was cool to see that. And it was really well designed. I really liked that space a lot. And then when you come out of that building into the main park area, you see the Hollywood Tower Hotel in the background. And there's some more replica Hollywood style buildings in the foreground from that. And I was like, oh, this is really cool looking. After that point, the park starts to feel like a real mishmash of different things. And I understand it's in a transitional period right now where they're going to be expanding it and building more stuff there. So I was trying to be as forgiving as possible going through there. And there was some cool stuff to see.
The weirdest thing I've ever seen in pictures from that park, though, it weirds me out that the partner statue is in the Walt Disney Studios park instead of in the Disneyland Paris.
Yeah, in fact, I took a photo at the end of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror event that I went to. I took a photo of the Mickey and Walt partner statue in front of the, with the Hollywood Tower Hotel in the background. So that's cool.
So the whole Twilight Zone Tower of Terror thing that's going on over there, you went to a special event, but they're making permanent changes to it.
Yeah.
Yet they're promoting it kind of as part of the Halloween season, considering the whole Twilight Zone creepy tie-in. So let's hear about this special event you went to.
Yeah, so the changes are called A New Dimension of Chills, which they've added 3 new stories, one for each shaft in the
so you
attraction.
can choose. It's not random?
I don't know if you'll be able to choose which one
But
you go to.
But you know which one. Like, if you've done it numerous times,
yes,
you will know which shaft/story you're
exactly. You'll be like, oh, I've done the center shaft, so I'll try to get the left or the right.
That's good to know. That's great.
Yeah. And they all feature this little girl ghost, but each time she says something different to you at the beginning, and then the ride profile will actually be different, and the type of drops and the frequency of drops you get will be different. And it actually each one reminded me of Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout in a different way.
Oh,
because I think 2 out of the 3 has a sudden accelerated launch. Similar to what Guardians does. And then one of them is very like suspenseful, where you don't know, it could drop at any moment, But the event, to answer your question, to go back to that, it was put on by Inside Ears, which is I believe it's officially run Disneyland Paris kind of social fan club is what they called it. And
it's
then,
like D23 of Paris?
I guess so.
Okay.
I don't know, but I think it was like a kind of a lottery thing. You have to enter, and then they select you out of however many entrances.
Oh, kind of like a Disney Parks blog.
Yeah.
Maybe. Okay,
something like that. But we got into that, and I was able to attend that. And it was just the ride had already been open. The new additions had already been open for like a day before the event, so people had already done it. But I was saving it for the event, and when I got there, it was cool because they had Goofy in the
bellhop costume, yeah, which was cool.
Yeah, he was meeting guests outside the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and everybody was really excited to see him. Another tangent I want to go on is that I've noticed that the characters behave very differently in Paris than they do here.
They're kind of wild, right?
Yeah.
Like they'll do whatever they want. Like I've
Yes.
seen Stitch have snowball fights.
Really? Okay.
I've seen video of like.
Oh, I think I
at
saw
one-
that too,
Yeah,
actually.
like the characters will play with you in ways that in
Yeah.
America.
Right. You have very, very, very strict rules about what characters can and can't do in the American Disney parks.
Yeah.
In Paris, there's this thing that they were doing that I saw several characters doing that I was like, they would never do that here. And that was when a pretty girl or lady came up, they would like pretend to put their arm around their shoulder and walk off with them.
Oh, okay.
Like, okay, that's something that they won't do here.
Yeah.
It's-
It is interesting, isn't it? The just the changes.
Yeah,
of,
the cultural
cultural changes.
Yeah. Anyway, to go back to the Tower of Terror, that evening we had, I think it was like 3 hours access to the ride with very few people in the park.
So you got to do all three.
Yeah, it just kept going on and got to experience all the different variations. And then they also had kind of a taste test buffet in one of the restaurants of all the Halloween.
Oh, cool.
Which, again, I couldn't
didn't
eat, but I took
touch, yeah.
pictures
Yeah.
of the foods and stuff.
I took pictures and it looked delicious.
Then to wrap up the evening, actually, throughout the evening, they had tours of the Hollywood Tower Hotel.
What? Wait, what?
Yeah.
Now I want to hear this.
Well, this is a cool thing that they do all the time there. It's actually on Wednesdays and Saturdays, I believe.
I need to remember this. That's
Yeah.
Is it just a free thing?
I don't know if it's an upcharge or not.
Okay.
That may be something you would have to look into. But every Wednesday and Saturday at Walt Disney Studios in Paris, you can sign up. I don't know if you'll have to pay, but you can take a tour of the Hollywood Tower Hotel, and they'll tell you the history of the attraction. It's not like in-universe. They're not pretending that they're
Yeah.
in the 1930s.
That would be interesting too. Though.
Yeah.
But,
They're actually talking about the history of the attraction and the history of the TV show, The Twilight Zone, that inspired it.
That's interesting.
And pointing out all the little references here and there and stuff.
I
so-
wonder if part of that, I could be wrong, but I wonder maybe in France Twilight Zone isn't as well known, so it's partially to educate people on that franchise.
Well,
I don't
okay,
know.
so the tours throughout the evening were in French, but the final one was in English, which
Okay.
is, of course, when I went, I waited for the last one. And, they had a script, obviously, that they were going through. And they actually told us that this was an abbreviated version of the usual tour. We got a half an hour. It's usually an hour.
Wow. Okay.
But I will say that I only speak one language, so I'm totally forgiving of this. But the tour guide kept saying, Rob Serling.
oh, Rob.
Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm not going to correct her or anything, but that's very interesting.
that is kind of funny. We should mention that before these changes came to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror in Disneyland Paris, this was essentially an exact copy of the one we had here at Disney California Adventure.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming you'd done many times.
Many times.
So with these changes, did it really feel different to you, or was it like, it's little tweaks?
So, okay, well, in my experience at this event, the pre-show was totally different. I don't know if this is the way that they're doing it every day.
You mean like the Rod Serling video in the library?
Yes, they didn't show the video at all.
Oh.
I don't know if that's how it's happening ordinarily, but the video did not play. The bellhop in the lobby sang us a song, and it was a different song every time. This may have only been for this event. In
Yeah,
fact, I'm
that does
guessing
not
that
sound-
is probably the case. But it was always a song relating to the people in the group that was in the library there, or what was going on in the park. It was a really unique experience, and I really enjoyed it.
That's interesting.
He sang a song about Dapper Day, which had happened that day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I bet you that was it always the same cast member?
Yes.
Okay, I bet you this was just a cast member
that
choice.
Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that happens in Paris. They play very fast and loose with the experience there. But then actually on the ride, yeah, I would say it's experientially, it's halfway between what we were used to for the Tower of Terror here and Guardians of the Galaxy Mission Breakout.
That's interesting.
They kind of took the ride profiles of Mission Breakout and imposed that over the Tower of Terror, because it's more of like a mix between the drops and the story. Like the drops will happen, you'll go back up, and then you'll see part of the story again.
Yeah. That's interesting because, a lot of people I think were surprised when they heard this was happening at Walt Disney Studios Park, because obviously they invested money into it. They took the time to do this whole overlay. But there are people who keep saying, I'm shocked they're not just turning it into Guardians, considering, correct me if I'm wrong, is it not right next to where the whole Iron Man roller coaster is going to be going?
That's a good question.
Where Rock and Roller Coaster was.
I don't know.
Okay.
Because I don't know where Rock and Roller Coaster was, and I didn't see that.
Okay, from what I understand, they're pretty close together.
Okay.
And so people I've heard just say, I can't believe they're not just doing Guardians. Obviously, they invested money in this. This is here to stay for a while. I'm sure it's probably the biggest attraction in the park at the moment.
Well, the one that was recommended to me the most was Crush's Coaster.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
It's like a kiddie coaster.
Yeah. I wasn't too impressed with it. It was fine.
Yeah.
And then the other one was Ratatouille, which I also...
How did you like that, considering that's essentially what's coming to Epcot?
Yeah, I was excited for it. Ratatouille is my favorite Pixar movie.
Okay.
So I was excited to go on a ride based on that. I thought it was just okay.
Okay.
A lot of screens. It's kind of like Harry Potter and the Forbidden Journey.
Except on the ground.
Yeah, in that it's screens mixed with physical sets.
Okay.
But the parts with the screens are less interesting in Ratatouille because on the ride that I went on, the vehicles were not moving during the parts with the screens.
Oh.
So there wasn't even that motion simulation happening.
Yeah.
You were just kind of watching something happen for a little while, and then you would go through a physical set. And those parts were really neat. And actually the queue is pretty cool. When you're walking on the rooftops of Paris, like at the beginning of Ratatouille, and you see the Gusteau's restaurant sign, and Gusteau will come to life in the way that he does in the movie and talk to you for a little while. So that was cool. So kind of a mixed experience for me.
Well, at least you got to do it because now you can compare it whenever it opens at Epcot. I'm kind of curious to see if it's any different. I'm hoping they plussed it in some ways.
I hope so.
That'll be interesting. Back to the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror for a second. I'm curious, did you see the music video they put out to promote this?
Yes.
I love it.
Very high production value, I'd say.
Yes, they shot a legit music video to promote these changes for the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
And they used the song "Are You Brave Enough," which is kind of their resort-wide catchphrase.
Is it an original song? I don't know.
I don't know, but I assumed so.
Okay, I assume so as well. If anybody listening knows, please let me know. Yeah, Are You Brave Enough? You say it's a resort-wide thing, or
because it's also in that show "Are You Brave Enough?"
Oh, okay, yeah. That's their theme for Halloween this year, I guess. Yeah, it's a great music video. If you haven't seen it, I'm sure if you just look up like Tower of Terror Paris music video, you'll be able to find it. It's great. I love it. You see the characters from the attraction like running through the attraction in the hallways, and then there's a very Tip Top Club type of singer lounging to this.
Do you remember just going back now, thinking about the last couple of weeks here when it was open, and they had the what was the name of the group?
Sisters. Not the Tip Tops.
I'm blanking on it,
their
too.
poster. I was just talking about this with my friend Aaron Wallace on the show because he was talking about that experience we did together.
That was so cool, and I shot video of that
what
there.
Was the sisters? Oh, the Silver Lake Sisters.
Silver Lake Sisters.
Yes.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was so neat. I wish they had that running all the time when the ride. They should put those in.
I just want a Tip Top Club built. Can we please? I've said this a billion times. Imagineers, create a Tip Top Club.
Well, that was rumored for a while, wasn't it? They were doing a bar down in Orlando.
Yes, in Orlando. I think it was even more than a rumor. I feel like Disney somehow said something about it and it just never came to fruition. Maybe it was just a rumor. I'm not sure. But yeah, I legit think a Tip Top Club needs to exist. But whatever. But in any case, that sounds super cool. That's I didn't realize you had a special event for Twilight Zone Tower of Terror. So
Yeah,
that's awesome. Did they do any map projection on the building for the special event? Because
No.
they tend to use that building quite a bit in Paris for their Star Wars nights. They'll project on there.
No, nothing special as far as that goes.
Okay. Well, that's cool.
But yeah, the actual physical building was, I'm pretty sure, very close to what we had here in DCA.
Yeah, it's interesting. They had a park called Disney California Adventure that was struggling, so they put a Tower of Terror there, a lesser version.
Yeah.
And then they had a Walt Disney Studios park that was struggling, so they're like, let's once again replicate that lesser version in this park to save it. And it kind of did. I hear people. Maybe it's just because it's the only big thing in there, but I hear people talk about that attraction quite a bit. So, and I like the fact that a version of it still exists. Although, to be fair, now the DCA version really doesn't exist, considering the changes that have been made in Paris. So,
and it's neat that every version of Tower of Terror now is different, right?
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I like that. So, anything else Halloween-y you want to talk about in Paris, or did we cover everything?
There were a few little things in Disney Village, which is their equivalent of downtown Disney / Disney Springs kind of thing. But it was just, there was like a performance stage, which every time I passed by, nothing was happening. And then a couple little like photo ops and stuff. And then they had the music loop, the background music playing that was all Disney Halloween stuff.
Would you suggest Halloween time being a good time to visit Paris, or do you, I know you have nothing to compare it to really, but like, would you go back again for Halloween time, or would you be like,
I think it's just interesting to see a different country's take on that season or that holiday. And what was really interesting to me was how many youthful people I saw, like in their early 20s, I would say, singing along to the song and the parade and stuff. I was just like looking around. I was like, wow. Like I don't think of that type of American culture, the theme park culture that we have here, being superimposed onto Europe, and it's very odd to me because I always thought that would be just like kind of this uniquely American thing. But yeah, it's neat to see that catching on.
I found it interesting when they did and didn't use French. I always found that to be interesting because it kind of alternates between English and French in those parks, and the parade music is always in English, which I find so weird. But like whenever there's a song, it tends to be in English, no matter where you are. And that's cool, though. It sounds like a lot of fun. Thank you for coming on and telling us all about it. But I think that means it's trivia time. All right, Mike, do you want to hit me with a trivia question first, or shall I?
Well, you go first this time because I feel like
this one's hard.
Oh, God.
This one's really hard, and I, it's more about getting the information than actually expecting you to get the answers. But you mentioned there are 3 versions of the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Yeah.
Each story actually has a different name. Do you happen to know the names of any of these stories?
I just wrote about this yesterday, and I don't remember.
One of them's really easy. Think of like the final scene, or a scene in the Florida version. It's called very Twilight Zone name.
The Fifth Dimension?
The Fifth Dimension.
Okay.
And the story of that one goes, a sinister poltergeist has opened a portal to the Fifth Dimension and wants to take your soul with it. Prepare to question everything you know is real as you drop into a terrifying psychedelic journey between 2 worlds. Will the little ghost girl be able to save you? That's the one now.
Yeah.
So that's one of them.
This one of them is about a monster, I think.
Creatures.
Creature.
The shaft creatures.
The shaft creature, yeah.
They know you're here, so whatever you do, don't scream. Frightening creatures are loose in the elevator shaft and are looking for distressed souls to terrorize. The louder you scream and plead for mercy, the more powerful they become. Can you stay silent while plummeting down 13 unlucky floors at the speed of fright?
I did.
You did? Okay, good. And then there's the malevolent machine where the little ghost girl haunts your elevator. This I find interesting. The little girl haunts your elevator, but she's the least of your worries now. As soon as you take your seat, this malevolent machine only has one goal, to trap you. The elevator will screech and clank with macabre glee as it shoots you up and forces you down without warning. Your only hope is to hold tight and scream. Will you be able to free yourself from the machine's grip? Did you have a favorite of the 3?
I like the one that was the most suspenseful, and I don't know which title went with that one.
My guess is the shaft creature.
That could be it. Yeah, and Like I said, the little girl is a recurring theme in all of them, but her like attitude toward you changes in each one. Like one of them, she's like beckoning you to come toward her. And one of them, she's telling you not to scream over and over again. She's like, don't scream, because if you scream, they're going to get you.
Is she speaking in French or English?
I think they do both.
They do
like
both.
You said,
Okay,
yeah, with Phantom Manor and stuff. They do both, right? Yeah. So my trivia question is also about the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror.
Okay.
And I have no idea whether you're going to know this immediately or not know it at all, but I'm guessing you're probably going to know it. Can you give me the title of any of the Twilight Zone episodes that are specifically referenced in the Twilight Zone Tower of Terror?
The Fifth Dimension isn't one of them, is it?
No.
I can't remember. I know there's one episode that like it really focuses on, and I don't know.
Okay.
What is it?
Well, there's a bunch, but I'll say like Nick of Time is one that stars William Shatner, and it has that little fortune teller devil.
Oh, so you're talking about some of the Easter eggs that they have in the queue and stuff. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I don't know the titles. I know the little doll is on the couch in the lobby.
Right. And there's a little girl lost is another one where in the queue, there's that portal that's on the wall, and you can hear her voice and stuff.
Okay.
So I'm a Twilight Zone fan, so it's always cool to see that kind of thing.
It's one of those series I want to go back and watch the full thing. I certainly haven't. I've seen a lot of them. I love the first episode, especially Where is everybody?
Where is everybody? Yeah.
And I the reason I love it, I just have always had a love of studio backlots. And the first time I saw it, I was like, that is the set of Back to the Future, long before Back to the Future ever happened.
Right.
And I just nerd out over geeky stuff like that. But yeah, that's cool. Excellent. Mike, why don't you let folks know where they can read more of your stuff and all of your content?
Yeah, just visit laughingplace.com. I'm writing there all the time, and then uploading a lot of videos to the Laughing Place YouTube channel.
Fantastic. And folks, if you want to find Disney Coast to Coast on social media, simply head to DisneyCoastToCoast.com. We have all of our links there. And if you don't want to just listen to podcasts, if you want to start one of your very own, get some free information over at youcanpodcastnow.net. That's youcanpodcastnow.net. Other than that, folks, have a magical day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Disney Coast to Coast. Have a magical day.
Disney Coast to Coast is produced and hosted by Jeff DePauli. Learn more about the podcast and become a supporter at DisneyCoastToCoast.com.